Hi, brothers and sisters. God bless you all. Hope you're having a great day today. I wanted to come on and do a short video, and the name of this video will be Pastor Tim's Challenge. He had mentioned a few weeks ago that he wanted people to come on and share their testimony about how they came into the gospel of grace, and I just wanted to share a short testimony about that. And so, about 24 years ago, a friend of mine married a girl who was a born again Christian, and he started talking to me about Jesus. And I was brought up Catholic, went to a Catholic high school, um, went to church on Christmas and Easter. Once in a while, when I was growing up, I had to go every Sunday for my parents, but I never really understood much about it. Didn't understand salvation or grace or who Jesus Christ was, really. It was just kind of a religious thing. But back in 1995, when my friend got married to this woman who was a born again Christian, he started talking to me about Jesus. And I started getting interested. And I had also stumbled across some Christian radio programs that I would hear through the static on AM radio. And I'd hear a preacher talking about how my sins could be forgiven and who Jesus Christ was. And I started getting interested. It all kind of happened at the same time. And within a year, I accepted the Lord and I got connected with a big institutional, non denominational church. But it quickly brought me into Lordship Salvation stuff, and I ended up getting a MacArthur Study Bible. I started listening to Grace to You, and I started listening to R.C. Sproul's Ligonier Ministry, Renewing Your Mind program. And I remember listening to John Piper, and I just got caught up in some of the Lordship stuff. And, I used to use my MacArthur Study Bible a lot. So I was getting indoctrinated by that stuff. And I was in that for years. Then I ended up in a small grace church, but it was a home church. They understood grace, but they didn't have any sound Bible doctrine. So it was a mishmash of all sorts of different beliefs, and there really wasn't any teaching on 1 Corinthians 15 at all. But they did understand grace, but there was some things in there that weren't right. So I was in that home church for many years. I finally left after some rituals they had done, and I just was in disagreement with it, and I had left, but I was still searching. And then I got caught up in the Pentecostal Word of Faith, New Apostolic Reformation stuff through TV evangelists. I got sucked into that stuff for a while, and it was kind of weird. And I was looking for signs and wonders and all that stuff. And then I fell into what's called the modern deliverance movement. And that happened probably around 2008, 2009. And through a series of events, I went to some deliverance conferences and workshops and got some books and was being taught that Christians could have demons and generational curses, and these demons needed to be cast out, and these generational curses needed to be broken. And it catapulted me into years of just focusing on demons and breaking free from curses. And I got caught up in the teachings of Derek Prince and Win Worley, and I became obsessed with the devil and demons and all things dark, and it just wasn't good. I did that for years, almost 10 years I was in that stuff. Then in the midst of that, probably around, I don't know, 2011, 12, 13, somewhere in there, I met some people online who had come out of the Herbert Armstrong Church of God, and they were Sabbath keepers, much like the Seventh-day Adventists, and they were spin-off churches that came out of the Church of God from Herbert Armstrong. And I fell into them, and they started teaching me about keeping Shabbat, which is the Sabbath on Saturday, keeping the commandments. I was taught not to eat pork. I stopped eating pork and shellfish. I stopped celebrating Christmas and Easter, and I started celebrating the feasts of the Lord in Leviticus 23. And I fell into the whole Hebrew roots movement, and I was in that for about 4 years, and it was brutal. And it kind of made the MacArthur Lordship stuff look like child's play. I became very legalistic, and it's amazing when people don't rightly divide the word. You can fall into all sorts of cults, and it really gets confusing. And I was in that stuff for years, and I thought all Christians were, in this pagan religion, and they weren't really believers, and they weren't obeying the commandments, and it was really, really difficult. I became very self-righteous, and I was miserable. And through a series of events, the Lord led me out of it. And I found some people online and elsewhere that had come out of the Hebrew Roots movement, people that had come out of the Lordship Salvation, and people came out of the modern deliverance movement. And probably around 2017, 18, I stumbled across some of Renee Roland's videos, and I was intrigued, but I was very cautious at first. I thought it was too good to be true. And, people had told me that the whole grace thing was a license to sin, and I thought that's what Jude was talking about in the book of Jude, and I was a little confused. But I also listened to a few people online that were hyper dispensationalists and mid Acts 9 dispensationalists, and they had the gospel right, but they had some other stuff wrong. So it was a little confusing for me. But I learned from a couple other preachers about the gospel of grace found in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, 1 through 4. And through Renee Roland, I also came across Pastor Tim's videos, Tim Henderson, and then I came across Barry Scarborough, and then Greg Jackson, and Lily Girl, and a few other people. And it became evident that the gospel really is in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, 1 through 4, and Ephesians 2, verse 8 and 9. And so I've only been in this for a little over a year now, but, I dodged the hyper-dispensational bullet when I first came into learning about the gospel of grace. I was in hyper-dispensationalism for about 6 months, but I did more research and study and prayer, and the Lord led me out of it, and I came directly into the gospel of grace. And like I said, one of the big things God used in that, one of the people was Renee Roland. She really opened up the door for me to understanding the gospel of grace, and so did Tim Henderson and Barry Scarborough. And then from there, like I said, I started listening to Greg Jackson and Lily Girl, and it resonated with me, and the Lord confirmed it. And so I've been a grace believer ever since then. And I came out of a lot of false teachings, and I was in them for many years. And I'm so grateful to Pastor Tim and other people who have been preaching the gospel of grace. And since then, I've started my own channel and wanted to share my testimony. I came out of a lot of stuff, guys. I came out of addictions and false teachings and a lot of different situations, and the Lord has just blessed me. And I believe He allowed me to go through that stuff so I could share it with others and to help them to be set free from some of the false teachings. And I know the gospel of grace is under attack right now, but I wanted to share this. It's December 31st, 2019. 2020 is coming tonight, and I wish everyone a happy new year. And I wanted to share this quick testimony and encourage all of us to keep preaching the gospel of grace and to keep looking up, because our redemption draws nigh. The rapture could happen at any time. And I look forward to connecting with other grace believers and sharing the good news. So I just wanted to come on and share this testimony, and I wish you guys all a happy new year and a great 2020. I believe it's a year where the Lord will give us spiritual insight and vision, and we'll continue to grow in the grace and knowledge of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. God bless you guys. Thanks.